Mm.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Coffee Talk this morning, brought to you by the Diversity Committee. My name is Terry Upshire, and I'm the 2025 committee chair. The mission of the Diversity Committee is to promote equal opportunities in housing and diversity within the real estate industry. We work to identify the concerns and needs of minority GPAR members and assist in the development of actions to address those concerns and needs. We also promote change in the real estate business practices to reflect Philadelphia's cultural diversity. We're excited, to this morning to sponsor this coffee talk during Fair Housing Month and encourage all GPAR members to complete the Fairhaven 2.0 training, which is known as anti-discrimination training. And it will be, the link will be provided to you in the chat. But before passing things off to our new president, Mrs. Annette Collier, I'm pleased to welcome our special guest, Mr. Andy Toy, to the newly appointed director of home appraisal, the home appraisal equity program with the city's Department of Planning and Development. Prior to this role, Andy served as the policy director, of the Philadelphia Association of Community Development Corporations, PAC-DC, where he shared best practices with community leaders and advocated for communities on issues like affordable housing. He's also served on the community development director at CMAC for more than 5 years. At CMAC, he was instrumental in multi-million-dollar community development and revitalization projects, including Mifflin Square, Bender Village, SoFi Food Truck, and the 7th Street Commercial Corridor. Before CMAC, while serving as the managing director at the Philadelphia Chinatown Development Corp for the Eastern Tower Community Center, Andy and others collaborated on development of the Chinatown Community Center, which is part of the nearly $80 million mixed-use development at 10th and Vine Streets called The Crane. Annette, the floor is yours.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited about this guest that we have today, Andy Toy. I've had the pleasure of being in his presence. I think it was about last year when there was an election and the Asian Real Estate of America Association had an event, and I had the pleasure of being in this company. So I'm really excited about you being with us today, Andy. First of all, tell us about yourself and which part of the city do you call home?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me, everybody. Annette, Lexi, Terry, and all. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all and give you a little feedback and update as to where we are 13 days into the job. But who's counting? I mean, it's like 12 and a half days, actually. Yeah, about me. I've been in Philadelphia for most of my life, and I consider myself a Philadelphian. The first thing I ask people when I talk to them, are you an Eagles fan? I just met somebody from Pittsburgh who was transplanted, and she said, "Yeah, I'm an Eagles fan." We were like, "Thank God, no Cowboys." But by the way, I live in Logan Square now for about 29 years. Essentially, we moved there because we were trying to figure out the school situation for my kids. My mom was a public school teacher. Public service is always part of what we do, and wanted to really support and know that our public schools are good. Not all of them are up to par, but on the elementary school level, I think it's important to know that there are a lot of good schools out there, and that's one of the decision points for people, of course, when they buy a home. The other thing I would say about my background is I do have a little bit of real estate in my background. My first home was a triplex in West Poplar that I bought and I lived in and renovated, and then but couldn't have done it actually. And I'm thinking back to that without some help from a friend. Can't really talk about that, but that's really how it came about. To be able to have friends and family that actually can help you. And that's one of the issues that we deal with, that people don't have the family wealth or equity that they should have. And there is a disparity, of course, especially in the Black community today. And the mayor is really keen on that, and I'm glad to be a part of one of the mayor's pet programs that she started talking about in 2022 actually, with the study that indicated that there was work to be done, and now I'm here helping to do that work.
Very good. That's I'm glad that you shared that, and I'm also happy that you started off with an investment property. So we're also hoping that more and more of our members consider doing that. There was a study from NAR where there was only 10% of realtors who are investors. So when I first got started in the business, my broker was like, "Oh no, you got to buy investment." But I started off buying investment property. So thank you for sharing that. Could you tell us what was your journey into public service? You mentioned your mother was involved, and what motivated you?
Yeah, it's been a long journey. I'm maybe older than I look. I see David Feldman on the screen. David and I went to high school together, actually junior high, and in fact, just outside the city in Cheltenham. It really goes back beyond. Well, it was the family first that pushed to be part of doing something for others. My father was actually in. Never talked about, but I just am recalling him now. He passed in 2022. He was in World War II, and never talked about it. But he was on Normandy like a couple days after D-Day. So when people talk about service, that's real service, and the fact that people at that age never talked about it, and they just did, and I appreciate that. And but going back to junior high, I was involved in an organization called Woodrock, and we would go. It was during the civil rights age at the time, and it was a multiracial, multi-ethnic, neighborhood organization that just helped to bring us to different places. We would go to Tioga Nicetown and Casa del Carmen, North Philadelphia, and other places. House of Umoja, and we would just see like other kids and play and do stuff, play basketball, whatever it was, and understanding that people are very similar everywhere, but not everybody has the same opportunities to be able to reach their potential. And I think that to me is my guiding light. That even like doing the food truck, it was like finding people in the neighborhood that were just great chefs and people wanted to do stuff, express themselves, their culture, and their art, and their ability, and help to make them shine, and maybe even become a restaurateur. A few of them did, bricks and mortar. So it's like that kind of work. I love doing things to help other people achieve their dreams, and it's kind of like being a realtor, I guess. You're helping people to achieve their American dream, really, which is what owning a home is a big part of that, I think. And we need to make sure that people believe that they can do that, and believe that that's possible, and also don't get ripped off along the way, which is part of my work today. And then real quickly, after college, I actually ended up working, and I have a degree in economics and public and urban policy masters, and I worked in the Commerce Department, really helping small businesses initially in Philadelphia, and seeing how you need capital to start your business. And I can get into that, why actually what I'm doing is kind of connected to that, and the mayor's vision of an economic opportunity for all in Philadelphia.
Yeah, no, that's good, and I'm glad that you're a part of it. I didn't know that you come from a very great, rich environment as far as economics. I could see you being a great asset to our city, so thank you for taking the position. What are you hoping to bring to the Department of Planning and Development, and what are your priorities with the Mayor's Home Initiative?
Yeah, well, I think what I bring is experience and an entrepreneurial attitude. I've always been interested in starting something different and trying to move the needle, and finding ways to incorporate and build on what other people are doing. Actually, it's not, it's a village that's doing this. It's not one or two people. So yeah, I think my experience in working across sectors, breaking down silos, as they say, is important. And you guys are one of those places that we make sure that we need to incorporate into this conversation. And it's not just a top-down approach, and that we are doing our best to look at the whole picture first before doing anything. And there's been a lot of work before me, so I'm not, as I say, I'm jumping onto a moving train, but I think I'm going to help to steer that train in a good way as we go forward. In terms of the home initiative, Housing Opportunities Made Easy, this is kind of a side a little bit, but it is part of it. The idea that we can and will produce 30,000 new homes, mainly affordable in the next within the next 3 years now. I think is a stretch, but it's a doable stretch, and I think that we need to all be part of this, and certainly the realtors are part of it. But there's new construction, and then, as David and I have talked about, there's also zoning and other things. And what I bring to the table here, I think, is I've been on the outside at PACDC, like pushing good policies, what we think are good policies. But working in this department here, I'm privy to, having conversations with folks that are helping to build this policy and build the plane as we're flying it. So as an example, I'm a big proponent, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but accessory dwelling units was something that we can, and there are a lot of different little things, transportation oriented development, shared housing approaches, mixed income development. These are things that I think I've been interested in and pushing, especially at ADUs, which I think are what we call gentle density, that can allow people to own a home and also bring in a small amount of revenue so they can age in place. They might not need a 3-bedroom house. They might just need the 1-bedroom on the first floor. If it's a row house, or they could rent out space in the back to put a little cottage or live in that. So there are ways to build in more ability to do well and for everybody to benefit, I think. And I'll just point to a couple of examples too, of things that I've seen recently. New Cortland is a nonprofit doing a great project on Henry Avenue. You might have heard about it, a multi-family, pretty large. I forget how many units. It's got to be close to 100 at least. It's a mixed income, but not low income housing tax credits, which makes it much easier and much less expensive and internally subsidized. So those are the kind of ideas that I want to bring to the table here and see if we can promote more of those kinds of projects that are out there. That we have examples, and we just need to be aware of them and figure out how do we replicate that to get to the 30,000 or more units, new units of housing. We're not in a bad position, by the way, in Philadelphia compared to places like San Francisco or Seattle or LA, where there are places where there are a lot more homeless people, a lot of people who make a decent living that can't even afford a house. So housing is key to the whole strategy, I think. Housing is you know, key to our foundation. It's foundational to having a good life and a stable place to live. And even on the education side, I've seen when I was working at CMAC, the common thread for a lot of kids that were truant, we were running a truancy program, truancy prevention program, was that they had moved more than a couple times in a year or every year. And the problem was that they were going to a different school every year, trying to make new friends, trying to avoid being bullied. And it's hard. So they would just not go to school. And that is, you know, that's not a good way to start. So obviously a stable home in a stable neighborhood and a good quality neighborhood is essential for everyone.
Yeah, I'm glad you compared housing to the whole social climate because they are interrelated. And what we do and what you do is so impactful to the city of Philadelphia. I just wanted to make sure the members were aware that the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors, we have been involved with the appraisal. At that time, it was called appraisal bias. And before the mayor became the mayor, she was a council person, as we know. And she created this. I believe it was around after the time of the murder of George Floyd. And so it's been ongoing. And obviously, Andy made me aware that the word bias was taken out and put in with equity. So I'm fine with that.
Well, actually, we might have to go the other way, according to the federal government. There are like words that you can't even say anymore. It's just effing crazy.
Yeah, I know. But I just wanted to make sure that everyone know that GPAR has ongoingly been involved with this initiative, and we are also involved with the home initiative. So in both of those groups, I had already been involved. GPAR has been involved, and I'm just really excited about the energy of our staff being involved and making sure there's representation of GPAR in those settings, because we should be at the table. So we really are happy that we continue to be in those positions. So we know that April is Fair Housing Month, and it's something that GPAR has ongoingly been committed to. What does fair housing mean to you in a general sense? And in your current role, how do you advance the ideals of fair housing?
Yeah, first of all, on the equity question, I think we're still using bias for all our subcommittees as the word. Bias and equity are sort of the same thing from the other, you know, through the mirror, basically. And somebody just sent me a text yesterday that said, "Oh, you're the new home appraisal equity program. It's like HAPPY, HAEP." And then I said, "Yeah, actually, it should be the home appraisal equity program, YO, because it's in Philly. So it's a HAPPY program, or Home Appraisal Equity Program Philadelphia, YO." So anyway, that'll be, I don't know if anybody will take that, but equity and bias are in my mind the same issue, really, and whatever we call it, it is an issue, and we need to address it. In terms of fair housing, you know, we have the fair housing laws that were passed in many years ago, and we're still dealing with having to fix things that are not abiding by that. And to me, fair housing means, as I said, the ability for everyone to have a stable home, the ability to live where you want, not to be forced to live in certain neighborhoods. If you don't want to live somewhere, you can live somewhere else. Not being discriminated against, you know, that you can't live certain places. To me, having diverse communities, ethnically, racially, socioeconomically, you know, income-wise, is a good thing. It gives everybody an opportunity to see how other people live and to partake in opportunities and to connect. And the other thing I would say is, as I said before, we don't all start off on equal footing. And that's where equity comes into play. And the bullshit that they talk about in DC is not true, because equity and, is as important, because, if you're starting off without any opportunity to, let's say, buy a house because you have no family wealth to start with, that puts you at, behind already. And then you just get further behind over time. So as if we're all starting off at the same, some people start off at third base and think that everybody's out, that the world's somehow tougher on them when they have all the advantages. And you know who I'm talking about, one of them. And it's exacerbated by discrimination. And I do think that fair housing is so important, is foundational to our country.
Not to mention that people died for the opportunity for that to happen, such as Dr. King and many others. So,
yeah, and we should honor them by participating, right? I just I can't believe that more people didn't vote in the election than voted for either of the I think they said 37% of the people didn't vote, and 34 voted for, Trump, and 32% voted for, it was something like that, voted, for Kamala. And the number of people that didn't vote was more than the people that voted for each candidate. And I'm like, that shouldn't be. We've got to figure out a way to engage more people in our conversations.
yeah, hopefully, people will be encouraged to vote, because it is extremely important. And again, that's another area where people lost their lives, so that we could have the freedoms that we have had. Prayerfully, we will continue to have them. Now, we spoke about the ability to appeal an appraisal. We had a conversation once, and you mentioned that appraising is a science and an art, and possible internal bias. Could you kind of speak on that?
Yeah, by the way, I just had a great meeting with Carlo Batts. Carlo,
Yes.
who's an excellent appraiser in Philadelphia, and probably one of the few that's and so there's a couple issues that we're going to try to address in this work that I've been tasked to do. One is that in the study it was found that about 93% of the appraisal industry in Philadelphia is white, of the appraisers that do appraisals, and I've seen that in my own all of my appraisers, and male. It would be nice, not just nice, it's necessary, I think, to look at that and to figure out why or how we can diversify the industry. It's again, economic opportunities. It's not a bad job. It's a good job. And then there's the other issue, which is really the heart of what we're talking about, which is why are some appraisals somehow lower for the same house, let's say, with a different owner, in the same neighborhood even. The Rocket Mortgage was sued for that. And we know that mortgage companies are key to this as well. Mortgage companies, realtors, and title companies are all part of this industry, that we need to look at the whole picture. But what happened was I'm reading up on it. Where was it? I'm not sure which city it was or what town it was, but Denver. So they appraised a home. The appraiser appraised a home, and the comps, and this is where bias comes in, and it might be intentional, it might be unintentional, but there needs to be some training on this. The comps that the person used were far away from this home happened to be owned by an African-American person, and they used comps from another neighborhood that was mainly Black. just to, and it was a white neighborhood. And there was a property nearby that had similar comps, similar situation that was appraised for $200,000 more. So we know that there's a problem here, either intentional or even unintentional. And I think that understanding neighborhoods is really important in Philadelphia, where neighborhoods change every 3 blocks or so. Sometimes you're doing a comp from one neighborhood to another. If you're not from here, if you're from Jersey or the suburbs, or you've never been to Philadelphia, or you're afraid of the neighborhood you're even going into, you may have different views about what property it might be worth. So that's the other side of it, aside from the industry itself and jobs and opportunities. And by the way, Carlos said there's a need for more appraisers right now, which is, so why don't we try to, I think one of the goals here is to create a program, and we're going to be talking more to community college to create a training program. There's a high bar actually to get into the appraisal industry. So it's interesting how that works. And we want it to be somewhat high, because we don't want just anybody to go in there and appraise properties, without any real understanding of how it works. So yeah, I think the problem has been outlined, and we want to make sure that either through training, but also through adding more people, and particularly people from the city, and particularly people of color that can get into the business, because it's not reflective. At 93% white, the city is on, more people of color than white in our city. So how do we fix that? Because even in the banking industry, they've addressed it. So we need to address it at all levels.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned it, because believe it or not, my real estate path, I would have became a real estate appraiser. I took all the classes, and when it came to me trying to find someone, I was trying to become a general appraiser. I couldn't find anyone. What is it, apprenticeship?
Yeah,
And
there's
so I
apprenticeship.
wound up taking all those credits, and I wound up becoming a real estate broker, and I never went back. But I definitely saw the disparities. But I would say that Fannie Mae, they did come up with a program. I think it's called ADI. And so they've gone all over the country to the HBCUs, the community colleges, to encourage students to do it. And I think there was internship. I think there was even some money that they had provided. And again, I am going to connect you with them, because I think it will be a great connection in moving forward and addressing the issue. And then I know for myself, this was many years ago, I owned a property in Chester, and I was trying to sell the property. The tenant wound up buying the property, but they were devaluing my property for less than what I purchased it for. I think like 55,000 is what I bought. It was a duplex, and I had a separate garage. I was making money off of the garage. I was really doing well on this property. But then I decided that the city of Chester was just taking too long to, raise up to the level that I needed them to in a quick enough fashion. So I wound up investing in Philadelphia more. But I had to go to Eddystone to get the comps, to get them to change my numbers. And a lot of times people do not know that they can appeal. You can appeal an appraisal. And if you are, and Scott Geller, he's an appraiser. He's a member of ours. He's on the call. And Scott, I'm gonna be reaching out to you, because I know I have an assignment that I didn't complete. NAREB, which is, that's the Black Real Estate Trade Association. They have a group called NESRA, which is the National Society of Real Estate Appraisers. So I had committed to the mayor to get a chapter started in Philadelphia to address more minorities being mentored by that group. So, and Scott, he's putting messages in the chat. So I really appreciate our relationship with Scott and his membership. So we hope to come back to you with that. He might also be a good asset for your committee also.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk to Scott. But what Carlos said to me is each person, and by the way, there's a capacity issue. Like each person who's an appraiser can only take up to 3 trainees, and that's got to be hard, even at with 3 trainees at the same time. So we're talking about possibly doing a program. We have to look at the state level licensing program, licensing of appraisers. There's a whole conversation that needs to go on, but maybe doing it as a classroom first, and then you get some of your hours that way, and then go to work with a licensed appraiser. But yeah, it is a challenge, and I don't necessarily agree that AI is going to take over everything. By the way, Scott, I think there is an art and a science. I think how do you know which neighborhoods to use as your comp? How do you go inside of a building? I mean, maybe we'll get robots to go inside people's houses and start looking around, but I hope not.
That would be interesting. Oh, God. That would not be good. Well, I think that those are all the questions, but do you have any last words for us? I'm excited about your position. I really am. And I know you're going to do great for us in Philadelphia.
Well, 2 last words. One is I am full speed ahead. We don't have time to waste. It's been a problem for years, and I would say that we need to measure ourselves somehow, and we need to look at, we're trying to find data. That's going to be the tricky thing. And if anyone here has any data on where you think, or as I say, if you have enough anecdotes, it becomes data. So every time there's a problem, we should make sure that we note it and we put it somewhere so that we can understand in the big picture all these issues that pop up. So between you guys and housing counselors and the appraisers that know that there have been issues, like if somebody, and here's where people need to be engaged, if somebody actually challenges their appraisal, we should know that, and we should know all the details of that. And I don't have that data right now, but I think we need to have that data. And it's important to know when that happens, but also engage and educate people that they do have a right to challenge an appraisal. And I don't think it happens very often because people just sort of accept it. But I think if people knew their rights, there'd be there'd be more people that might challenge it, but there'd also be appraisers be more careful, not that they're not already careful, but making sure that they're doing things to ensure that people's houses aren't undervalued. And then finally, I want to make sure that you guys are all part of this conversation. So we have committees that are meeting, and if between Annette and Lexi and anybody here, subcommittees, we don't want to have like a subcommittee of 40 people, but if you have some input that you'd like to give, absolutely be open to that. And we need all the support we can get as well. So if people start criticizing equity, I would love to hear people here say, no, this is not about I don't know, unleveling the playing field. It's about leveling the playing field and making our city better. So that's a false claim, and having your support would be great.
Great, thank you so much. Matt, our CEO, and before I go to Matt, I want to thank Lexi and also Terry Upshire and the rest of the DEI committee for making this possible today, and you agreeing to be here with us, Andy. I want to check with Matt and see if there's any questions and announcements that he may want to do.
No, nothing from me. It was a great conversation here today, and obviously it's an ongoing conversation. It doesn't end as this session comes to an end, and there's a lot of things going on, a lot of opportunities, and we appreciate Andy's invite for us to have a seat at the table and to be a part of it. It's important. The work that Terry and the committee are doing with Lexi, it's important. But we've been doing this for a long while. We didn't just start getting involved in these things. This is part of our our progression. And when these opportunities come forward, as with the home initiative from Mayor Parker, you got to jump in and see how you can contribute and collaborate so that we can advance all this together, because we want more people in homes. Home ownership is good for everybody. It makes neighborhoods better, makes families better, it makes individuals better. I mean, it's just better all around. So, you know, the opportunity to go ahead and have 30,000 new starts or rehabs, it's sorely needed. It's sorely needed. So anything we can do to jumpstart that and put some rocket fuel into the engine, let's do it.
All right.
Really appreciate that. And by the way, I just want to mention that I've worked with a few people here, Emily, of course, and Johanna, who's a realtor on a property that we sold. So we appreciate that. And so we, you know, I'm no stranger to real estate, and just need your support in all this work for sure.
We may come back around to you on the commercial side.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, and
Absolutely.
one last thing I would say is, how does it also connect to economic development? Because that's been my career, mainly community and economic development. I would just say that when I was working in the commerce department, people would come in and say, I want to start a business, small business, you know, and I was like, okay, what kind of equity do you have? Because they're going to look for equity and collateral. A bank looks for collateral if they're going to make you a loan. And like, they were like, I don't have anything. I'm like, well, the first thing you might want to do is actually buy a house, because that is what lenders look for, to be able to show that, one, you have skin in the game, and two, collateral is something, you know, they don't want to take it, but it is something that if things fail, that's the only way that they can get their funds back. So it is also an economic development issue, owning a home. If you want to start a small business, it's very hard to start one with zero collateral, unless you have cash, and most of us don't have that.
Very true. Very true. So thank you again.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Emily.
Sure, sorry. Yeah, hi, Andy, thank you for coming to join our meeting. Congratulations for your new position. There's one question I want to share, that for in the Asian community, I checked with some of the realtors who helping the AAPI community. They didn't record any of the bias. However, they want to see the API appraisers. And in my real estate career history, I never encountered anybody who is either Asian or Black communities. There's only one Black appraiser that I encountered. Everybody else, like Andy saying, is male, white. So we need more diversity appraisers. Annette and I, we hosted a webinar before that we invited one of the appraisers who is very influential in the area to talk about the appraisal industry. And then we realized after the webinar that we need to encourage more real estate practitioners to participate as appraiser. So to fill the space for diversity appraisers, that's what I would suggest to do. The reason is the diversified appraisers could help our diverse community to understand the culture when they knock the door, and then what they need to be aware, like taking off their shoes in some of the Asian families, and also to address and talk to them. So for myself, my personal experience, I always prepare my clients before the appraisal. I always try, if I could, always try to meet the appraisers and then talk to them. And then from the side, I know whether there are any repairs or any issues. I will also encourage my sellers to be there to meet the appraiser. So before the appraiser leave, so I will know for sure that whether there are any major issues, we can take the next step, be proactive, prepare for what we shall do to talk and then negotiate about the deal. The other thing I shared with Andy and also in the chat, the AAR just issued a survey, and they encourage all the realtors who have access to the AAR website. I also share the link to 3 articles that relate to the to this project. So they encourage anybody who have any comments about whether additional experience is needed for the appraiser's qualification by May 9th. So there are 3 articles. I will encourage to read them and then check the website if you have the AAR access. And then the mission to get one of the important things I saw that they encourage the realtors, lenders, or brokers to be involved or apply as the appraiser because of the background information. And also it's good for them to use their experience to implement into their appraisal process. So that's a very good topic if you want to explore more. Thank you so much, Annette, and then Andy, for your input. Thanks.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
totally agree, Emily. Thank you for that comment. And if we can put together a training program, that might be a way for people to know that there is an industry that they can join in. Right now, it's how do you know what that industry is, and how do you get a job there, and how do you start? You know, in some ways, it's like the building trades where people just haven't had that opportunity necessarily, and people of color. But I think if we make a pathway easier, it will encourage more people to get involved in it.
Yeah.
Yes, I
And you can
totally
make a
agree.
lot of money. Like, I mean, you know, I'm being told they make about 6 figures. So it's a good salary job. And then earlier when you talked about the difference in dollars, I think for the African American community, it was a $48,000 gap on the appraisal. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, any information people have and that it could be helpful data or even anecdotal information is helpful for us to make the case and to continue pushing forward on this.
Yeah.
I know we're going to keep doing it. It's just we want to make sure that people don't feel like we're doing something that doesn't make sense, you know.
Right. And just so you know, if you don't know, and that goes for everyone on the call, each of the groups, each of the minority groups, they have a report. So the African American is called SHEBA, which is State of Housing in Black America. The Asians, they have a State of Asian Housing report. The same thing with Latinos. I'm not sure about the LGBTQ. I kind of think that they do. So all of those groups, they do have their reports on their findings in terms of any discriminatory practices and the actual home ownership numbers. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'm just reading home appraisals in black and white. There's a done last year in October by the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. NAREB, I don't know. There's various organizations out there, but it does show that the data shows the disparity of and our goal is to find equity in that, move us to that.
Absolutely.
The other
Thank
thing
you.
I want to mention, sorry, Annette, is there's one realtor mentioned that they wish that when the appraisers come to appraise a property, and then some of them sounds like they're from a little further away, like there's some appraisers coming from Jersey, and you're appraising a property in Northeast Philly or in Southwest Philly, they want to know, make sure the appraiser, whoever the lender, the roster hit into understand the local value, they know the market, their experience, have a good knowledge about market. Otherwise, it will be a big argument about the values, everything. So that's what they want me to give the comment. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, are you still there? I can't see you.
I'm hearing it.
Good morning. All right. Any thing before you end our call?
No last thoughts from me. Terry, how about you? You started us off. Why don't you be the bookend for us on this great
Um,
morning?
sure. Yeah, great conversation today, everyone. Thank you for joining. I don't have any additional questions. Um, so yeah, be on the lookout for, like our next, like session, and events, and we'll everyone have a good day.
I
Sounds
did
great. All right,
forget,
everyone.
I just want
Have a great day.
to mention that I see Barbara Capozzi here. We served together on the board of Friends of FDR Park. Hey, Barbara. And we're friends, and I know that just looking forward to your support, all of you, in the work that we're doing. I appreciate it.
Sounds
Very
great.
good. Barbara's a
Awesome.
past president too, Andy. I don't know if you know that. You know she's a past president? Okay.
Mhm.